Come and visit the new Ajab Bank today. Ajab is the only Islamic bank in the Gambia. We offer Sharia compliant services, products and financing modes. Ajab have invested in ultra-modern technology in the state-of-the-art core Islamic banking software IMAL. Ajab ATMs are located in our branches at Banjul, New Joshuan, Brikama, Basse, QCell head office and Brisubi turntable. You can check your balance, withdraw cash, get your mini statement and much more. Ajab also provides 24/7 internet banking, which offers you the comfort of banking from your office or your homes. Come and visit the new Ajab Bank today and enjoy our services delivered by a team of banking professionals. For a limited time, you can get an Ajab ATM card absolutely free. For more information, contact us on 346-6666 or 327-7777. Ajab, your partnership bank.
Joining us on our QTV Business and Economy program. The Business and Economy program is intended to promote the ideals of a corporate Gambia identity with the objective of forging partnerships through dialogue between the public and the private sector, civil society organizations, and the international community. We continue our dialogue on the business and economy environment. And today we have invited a distinguished personality from the Ministry of Justice. This personality, in the names of Mr. Alassane Job, who is a State Counsel and Acting Deputy Registrar of Companies at the Ministry of Justice, would help us to discuss and talk about the single window business registration. The single window business registration is an important component that has been put together at the level of government to help in business registration, impacting on both local businesses and international businesses. We would, during our discussion, ask pertinent questions in terms of what has been obtained within the single window business registration framework. Has it served its purpose? Is there a need for a reconsideration of the objectives of the single window business registration? What has been the challenges? Are all institutions who were supposed to be involved? These, ladies and gentlemen, would be our discussion over the next 1 hour. Mr. Alassane Job, welcome.
Thank you very much.
To the Business and Economy program.
Thank you very much.
It is a pleasure to have you, and we thank you for honoring our invitation.
Thank you very much.
I want to start, for the benefit of the viewership, for you to give us a rundown in terms of the single window business registration. Why was it set up? What processes has it undergone during its setting up? And what, in general, are its objectives?
Thank you very much, Mr. Roberts. Equally happy to be here. Now, the single window business registry is a division under the Ministry of Justice. The ministry has 6 different departments, and under the company's department is where the single window business registration office is. Now, to answer your question, I would do a comparison between what used to exist before and when the Single Window Business Registration Act came into place in 2013. Now, before the single window came into place, we had 2 laws, which was the Companies Act 1955 and the Business Registration Act of 2005, which were the main regulatory laws in terms of doing business in the Gambia. Now, before the single window came into place, to register a business in the Gambia involved some different procedures, involved different offices to start a business in the Gambia, like the GRA, Social Security, and the municipal offices. And what you do then is that you would have to go to each of these offices and do a registration with them before you finally come to the ministry. And then it used to take a number of days. It used to take time and energy to run down through all these offices. So in 2013, we benefited from a project under the GGCP, that is the Growth and Competitiveness Project, funded by the World Bank. We benefited from a project where they wanted to ease the pressure or the burden of doing business in the Gambia, hence the establishment of the single window. So when the single window came, as the name implies, single window, its aim was to bring together all the government agencies involved in business setup in the Gambia and bring them under one roof. So that instead of going to GRA, get a TIN, going to the trade license, get your trade license certificate, register with Social Security, and then come to the ministry, now all of these offices will be housed together under one roof, and the registration process now will be made by one uniform process in which you will do, while you're applying for your TIN, at the same time you can get your trade license, get your business registered, and register for Social Security under one process. That was why the single window came into place, and that was why we passed the Single Window Business Registration Act in 2013. Now, when the act was passed, we also expanded. We also opened a sub-office at the Carnifing Municipal Council complex to make it easier for people, because most businesses basically are in the Combo area, and they used to find it difficult to go all the way to Banjul. That was why we established the single window office at KMC. So basically, the one at KMC is supplementing the one in Banjul, and we're working simultaneously to make doing business in the Gambia easier. That was why the single window was passed in 2013.
In terms of its objectives?
Yes, its objective, basically, as I mentioned earlier, it was to make the business environment very conducive generally for Gambians and non-Gambians alike. Now, you don't need to go through all these offices. You can just come to one office and then you can get all of these processes. And we also reduced the time it used to take to register a business. Now you can get your business registered in one day, which has never happened in the Gambia before. Because by the time you go to all these offices, it will take time. So now you can register in one day. And another objective also, in terms of expansion also, we have expanded to Carnifing, and very soon we'll expand to Bassa area also. Another objective was that we have now an electronic system, unlike before, where you used to come and file and register your business. You need to fill forms, and then you need to bring documents, which we used to keep in filing cabinets. If you want to cite them, it was difficult. Now you have an electronic system, an electronic data, which has all the businesses that are registered in the Gambia, what they do. It has different categories when it comes to gender, municipality. So we have now an e-registry, and it provides easy access. And we have a website which the public can easily access to get more information about the single window. So that was also another of its objectives, why we set up the single window office.
Now, you mentioned that you have a set number of institutions that have come together in order to implement or make the single window business registry a possibility.
Yeah.
You mentioned the GRA, you mentioned Social Security, you mentioned the municipalities, and of course, your institution, the Ministry of Justice. In the consultation to the creation of this single window business registry, were all of these institutions involved, with the Ministry of Justice taking the lead? Are there other institutions that perhaps should be here that are not within this framework? I can make reference to the Gambia Investment and Export Promotion Agency as well, because I've not heard them mentioned. And we know that the Gambia Investment and Export Promotion Agency, as an institution, is key in the promotion of investments in the country, be it local investments or foreign direct investments in the country. So why is it that GIPA has not featured within the single window business registration framework, if you will?
Yes, all of these offices were involved in the consultation process. Because if you check, the act was made in line. The Single Window Act provides for all of these offices. It says that all of them should come together and be housed under the ministry. We check the act and the regulations. So now when it comes to the GRA, we have a GRA representative at the office in Banjul, and Social Security has been sending in representatives as well. And the trade license also. For the office in Carnifin, we are operating right next to the KMC trade license office. So that one also has become a reality. Now the whole purpose now was just, as I mentioned earlier, was just to bring all these offices together so that you can get them under one roof, and you need to do all these processes simultaneously. Now our system provides for when you are doing an application for a business registration. In the application form, it asks you whether you want to register with the Social Security, whether you are going to register with for your tax identification number, which is the TIN, and also whether you are going to register as with the municipal council for the trade licenses. It's provided for in our system. Now on the ground, it's a bit difficult because some of these institutions have sent representatives before and they've gone back. Some are still there, like the GRA officer is still in Banjul, meaning you don't need to go to the main GRA office to get a TIN. You can go to the single window office and get your TIN and your business registration. As for Social Security, they sent representatives before, but they have since gone back. But it's very easy because they can easily access the information that they need from our system without any hassle. So meaning Social Security, even though they are not there on the ground, but they can access the information they need in terms of the businesses that we register, the companies. They can get the information from our system if they want to. Yes.
It would seem from your narrative that the single window business registry is being hosted by some of the institutions that you mentioned. You mentioned KMC in terms of, Carnifin. You are within the KMC. The single window business registry is within the KMC complex, if you will. If you go to Banjul as well, it would seem as if you're equally being hosted there. I don't know whether it's Banjul City Council that's hosting you.
No, Banjul is at the Ministry of Justice itself.
It's at the Ministry of Justice itself. Okay. Now, you mentioned earlier that the single window business registry was created out of the support of the Gambia Growth and Competitiveness Project.
Yes.
I would imagine that there would have been a sizable envelope in terms of funding support. So the question I want to ask, and because you mentioned here that some of the institutions that are part of the single window business registration framework are not, do not send constantly permanent representatives
yes.
at the places where you're being hosted. Is that because there are space constraints within the KMC and the Ministry of Justice in Banjul? And if that is the case, wouldn't it have been much better if the single window business registry had an office complex of its own, starting out, not anything big,
yes.
where all these people who are supposed to be part and parcel of the single window business registry would have an office or an open complex, like a cubicle setup, so that this challenge of people coming to be represented would not be a challenge as a result of space. I'm sure it's because of space that, for example, the Social Security does not have a permanent representation. What is your take on that?
Yeah,
and is this something that we should, that the single window, should look into going forward?
Yes, basically, space is one of the issues. But then, as I said, the single window, when it came, we transformed from using manual registry to electronic registry. That involves complicated equipment, such as servers and everything. So it was funded, as I said, it was funded by the World Bank. And since the project has phased out since about 3 years ago, sustainability has been an issue in terms of sustaining our equipment and everything. So that's one of the issues that we are facing now, because right now we are heavily reliant on the ministry's budget allocation. It's covering for all our expenses. And the equipment we are using, like the servers and everything, they need constant maintenance. So funding is one of the issues that we are facing. Sustainability is a problem. When it comes to these offices now not having permanent representatives there, I think space is one of the issues when it comes to maybe the office at Carnifin. They actually have desks there, and they have computers there, in fact. I don't know why some of them, they would come, they would send, Social Security used to have a representative there, permanent representative. But they used to come and they wouldn't spend much time there, and then they would go back. Because basically, for some of the reasons that they gave was that they didn't have much work to do. They thought the single window was more essential to only in terms of business registration, in terms of the single window business registration office. It was more beneficial to us than them. So they felt like maybe the work was a bit boring or maybe something like that. That's why they weren't permanently there. The GAIPA, they are supporting from a distance because most of the time the business, when it comes to investment in the Gambia, most of them they start through GAIPA, and GAIPA would refer them to the Carnifing office or at the Banjul office where they come. So they are not in-house in Banjul or at KMC, but we have receiving massive support from GAIPA in terms of them, in fact, sensitizing people on what they should do before they come, so that once they come, it makes everything easier. But the whole challenge is purely administrative as to why they have not sent in permanent representatives there. But I can assure you that this challenge will soon be overcome, because right now we are trying to seek for more funding so that we can expand to the regions, so that we can solve some of these issues and barriers that we are facing. Because when we started first, people were really appreciative of the fact that now they can do all this registration in one day. It used to work very, 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 very well. But now, you know, in order for it to work, all these offices need to be connected via our database registry. And the project has phased out now. So the ministry now is supporting us financially. And other offices have now joined in. And the ministry's only cash allocation, we find it very difficult to have to sustain all of the other offices on one roof. So that's one of the issues. But right now we are trying to secure funding from donor agents, and we would have to improve most of these facilities.
I want to go back to a point that you made, and that was the challenges relating to sustainability.
Sustainability, yes.
Primarily because the GGCP has now phased out. And I think this is a major challenge we have in this economy. We do have lots of grants and support, but all of the initiatives that are conceived and implemented within different envelopes of grant, once the grant runs out, the different projects or programs that are implemented run into sustainability challenges because there are no proactive measures undertaken to ensure that funds are generated to fund and sustain some of these projects and programs. To me, this is of concern, and let me tell you why I'm saying it is of concern. The single window business registration, undoubtedly an excellent initiative, and I think an initiative that should have put us in the right path as long as attraction of investment is concerned, because we live in a very competitive global environment, and just as Gambia is putting in a single window business registry window, so is all the ECOWAS countries, and so are all the African countries, and even Europe, that is much developed than us and far advanced in terms of economic development is concerned. So what do you reckon should be done, notwithstanding the funding gaps and challenges at the level of central government? But shouldn't the single window business registry in itself have been able to generate funds that would help to sustain its operations without the dependence on the Ministry of Justice or central government? I make this point to say that perhaps there are initiatives that could be pursued within the single window business registry that would help sustain the single business window registry, as it were, in its operations. So why has that not happened? What is your take on it?
That is a very good point. In fact, as I'm talking right now, it's one of the main things that we are looking at, sustainability. Because I mentioned that we are hoping to get funding to expand to the regions.
Yeah, but you are getting funding from somewhere else.
Yes. Now, before
Yeah,
that,
I'm
before
talking
the
of
funding-
internally generated funding. How,
I'm
what can this SWBR do to generate its own funds
No.
without relying on an external body?
Now, okay, and I'm coming to that. Before this funding comes, they need to check how the progress of the single window so far in terms of sustainability. The main challenge we are facing right now is the single window is an arm of the Ministry of Justice under the Registry of Companies. And the Ministry of Justice is part of central government. So basically all the revenue we are generating from businesses, from companies, is paid directly to central government. This is one of the things that we want to do away with now. We've been trying to rewrite to the Ministry of Finance so that at least we can retain a percentage of what we are making, the money we are generating, because it's an income generating office. We are making a lot of revenue, but we basically give back everything to central government. Now this, we are hopeful. We are trying to, we will talk to the head of our institution, the Minister of Justice, along with the Minister of Trade, to send a joint cabinet paper to the Office of the President so that they can look at this, so that the single window can retain a percentage of what it is making, so that we can use that now going forward. Otherwise, even if we have another project that comes in to support us and the project eventually phases out, we'll go back to square one, we'll go back to facing the same problem. As far as all the money we are making, all the revenue we are generating is being paid directly to central government. So this will be resolved before we benefit from another project.
The saying goes that you cannot kill the goose that lays the golden egg, because there won't be any more golden eggs to be laid. And I'm making this point to say, I hear you in terms of the approach that you want to take, engaging the Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of Trade, and possibly the Ministry of Finance, to help in terms of making a case for the single window business registry to retain a percentage of the revenues it generates from its activities to sustain your activities. And I think that is noble, and that is something that has to be pursued. I think if a cabinet paper is done and you seek the support of the Trade Ministry and the Finance Ministry, I don't see why such an initiative would not be supported, because the bottom line, as you rightly pointed out, is if you continue to pay everything to central government, and then you become incapacitated because you don't have funds to do, nothing would be paid to central government.
Definitely.
So some understanding has to obtain in terms of what you are generating and the percentage that you need to retain vis-a-vis ensuring that there's sustainability within your activities. But out of curiosity, I want to ask this. I mean, you mentioned earlier when you spoke about the objective for which the single window business registration was created. And one of the points that you made was that it has helped to cut down drastically the number of days it took to register a business. And you have mentioned that now, contrary to what obtained in the past, one can even boast of a single day to set up a business. Is that realistic? Because I have had people who still complain that it's taken, yes, an improvement has obtained in terms of the number of days it takes to register a business, but it still takes some time to register a business. What do you have to say to those people? Is it because they are not aware of the things that should be done, the processes that they have to follow? Are they not aware of the address where the single window business registries are, Banjul and KMC, Ministry of Justice and KMC complex? And if that is the case, are you guys advocating and raising awareness in terms of people to know?
Yes, when it comes to the number of days it takes to register a business, maybe the people that complain, maybe it's just out of ignorance. But basically, the people that come to the office have really even applauded us when it comes to the time. Now, it takes basically 1 day to register either a business or a company. When it comes to a company, because it involves more paperwork than registering a sole trader, so maybe that one might take a day or two, but it's at no fault on our part. Now, of course, we all know in the Gambia we face challenges such as internet issues, and the database is using internet. We face electricity problems. Now, when we don't have electricity, when the network goes down, sometimes it has to go to the following day. But all things being normal, you can get your business registered in the Gambia in one day.
I want to make a follow-up question on a point that you raised in relation to your e-registry. You had mentioned that some of the partners within the single window registry are not found on site because of space constraints. But equally, you had mentioned that some of them allude to the fact that there isn't much to do. And I can relate in terms of that sentiment because, let's face it, how many businesses would be registered on a daily basis during the course of the week? But the point I want to make here is, it would seem, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the single window registry started looking at the day of its inception in 2013 going forward. And that's perhaps the reason why the people and the stakeholders who are involved, as partners, feel bored because they don't have much to do. But, and this is the question to you, should the single window business registry have looked at retrospective? Meaning, yes, there are a number of businesses that have been registered prior to 2013. And there are a number of manuals that are out there containing those details in terms of those business registrations. And those manuals and those registration details of companies perhaps need to be updated so that the e-registry would now look at the past and try to move forward in the future. Meaning that any businesses prior to 2013, perhaps in 2019 or 2020, by the click of a button, you'll get all that information. So is that one way of addressing the boredom of some of the staff, especially the administrative staff, the data entry staff that are involved in this single window business registry? And if that is done, that would equally help us as a country to automate all the existing businesses in country and completely do away with the manual system. So is that something that the single window business registry
Yes, in fact, that is backed by law. Because the Companies Act provides that as of its commencement in 2013, all existing companies are supposed to come and re-register now. So meaning, in effect, it's saying that companies that were operating before 2013, when the act came into place, their legal status is void, meaning they should now come and re-register and be on our database. Now, we are having that gradually, all of them are coming. Some companies were incorporated before 2013. Businesses that were registered before 2013 are now coming to register with us. Because if companies, when they register, they need to renew. They need to file their returns every year. So when you come to file your returns, we don't accept you to file your return. We ask you, when did you last file your return? If it was before 2010, we are asked to re-register again. And the re-registration process involves bringing back all the documents that you submitted before. You need to bring them back and re-register again. Now that re-registration process, also when you are re-registering with us, the single window, simultaneously you need to register with the Social Security, the GRA, in terms of tax collection, and the municipal offices. Yes. Now, what I mentioned earlier regarding what they said, that some of them, they don't have much to do when they come. Basically, for GRA, we provide them with a data, a list of all the existing businesses that we register at a particular period, so that they can now trace them when it comes to payment of taxes. And likewise, the Social Security. So this data is easily accessible to all of them, even though they are not on the ground. Yes. So all existing businesses and companies are required by law to come and re-register again.
Follow up to that, as you rightly indicated, I'm sure every single operating business, irrespective of type, business type, is obliged to have their registration certificate renewed.
Yes.
Business registration certificate, BRC, every year. So I think that in itself is an avenue through which you could begin to get the companies to, meet up that, legal requirement that you pointed out in terms of businesses that existed prior to the SWBR, the single window business registry. But then again, let me ask this question. I've always wondered, why is it that business registration certificates, renewal certificates, could never be obtained in the Gambia before April? Why is that? And the fact that the single window business registry is now moving to electronic based. Of course, this would take some time, but eventually we'll get there. Are there plans in the pipeline for us as a country to do away with this issue of annual renewal of registration certificates? I believe that it would help ease the burden and the challenges, and also equally enhance the cash flow streams of the businesses, of the single window registry, as it were, and also government. On a number of issues, whether it's single business registration, whether it's licensing, whether it is license plates, registration plates for vehicles, or even our accounting year, instead of it being January to December. So does the single window business registry has that plan in place where instead of it being January to December, it would be as businesses are created? Is that something that you're thinking of?
It's not about whether there is a plan in place. It's actually in place now.
Okay.
It's just that people don't know.
Okay.
Before the single window, if you registered your business on the 30th day of December, it would expire on the 31st day of December, meaning you have to come and renew in January. That has been dispensed with now. So now meaning you need to come and file your annual return upon the 1-year anniversary of your business. Meaning if you register on the 20th of November 2017, you don't need to come and file your return until the 20th of November 2018. So we give you that 1-year anniversary when you should come and now file your return. Many people don't know this. They would still rush and come and register before the end of the year, because we used to, because it used to expire on the 31st of December. You see, in January, many businesses used to come and rush and register, and they would eventually die down as the year goes. But now, if you register today, you don't need to come and renew until next year today. Now, the whole purpose of filing annual returns, it's very, very important, because once you register your business or your company, they are now in the public domain. The public needs to know there are some transparency and transparency requirements in the Companies Act. When you register, there is nothing private about it. Access to information from the public is very important. Now, how can the public access information? Because when you register a company, of course, you want people to come and invest in your company. How can they invest in your company? They need to know certain things about your company. They need to know the company's financial status, the company's share capital, and all of those things. Where can they get those information? From our office. That is why the companies need to file annual returns every year to update us on their financial status. They need to submit their financial report, update us on the status of the directors, the shareholders, everything. These are the information that is usually provided for in the annual return certificate, so that from an outsider, they are an investor willing to invest in the company, they would know firsthand the status of this company before they invest their money in. Since we are the government custodian of all company records, so that is why the filing of annual returns is very important. Unfortunately, it's flouted on a large scale by many companies because they don't know. Because most of the business owners in the Gambia, or companies, they are mostly not educated. And usually the company, the way they set them up, it's very, very difficult. You see people setting up companies, they are the shareholders, they are the directors, they are the secretaries, they are everything. It makes it very difficult. And most of them, because they are not educated, they don't know that they need to come and file returns every year, even though there are heavy penalties under the Single Window Act for failure to come and file your annual returns. It's one of the challenges we are facing, why companies don't come every year to file their returns. Now, the catch comes here because there are so many things that you cannot do without your company records being up to date, your annual return certificate being up to date. If you go to the bank to get a loan, for example, they would need to see your last company annual return certificate. If you don't provide it, they will not give you the loan. In that case, you'll have to come and file your returns. If you want to do business with the government, for example, the government will not give you any contract. For example, if it's construction, they will not give you the contract if you don't show them your last business registration certificate. In that case, you'll have to come and renew. So this is where the catch comes. That's why many of them, they come there under pressure. I have this, I have that, I need to file my returns. But they don't come actually because the law says you should come every year. They wait until something happens, last minute, then they start coming. So that's where the catch comes. They usually come when there is something urgent that they need to use that certificate for.
I'm glad that that is the case, and even though, I mean, as you're indicating, their comment is more reactive than it is proactive.
Yes.
But perhaps that is as a result of people not knowing that this is the case. And I mean, you know, I mean, from what I gather from the various points that you're making, it would seem as if there is a need for a lot of awareness raising in terms of the single window business registry. And perhaps, you know, I mean, I don't know, I'll be more than happy to host a couple of platforms, you know, on this show to help bring about that awareness, considering that, you know, this program, amongst other programs on QTV, is now on radio. And people can listen to the radio if they don't have television sets or if they're out, I mean, driving. I know you talked about this briefly, but I want us to go into details. As long as businesses and types of businesses and the registration of businesses are concerned in this country, for the most part, people are very familiar and are more comfortable around sole proprietorships than you would have people being comfortable around partnerships and its variant forms, or or companies. Could you give us an overview of the different categories of businesses that could be created in the Gambia, and also the documentation work that is involved, and also the cost in terms of their being set up? And perhaps that would help. And I believe there is this notion and fear amongst Gambians, even educated ones, in terms of setting up partnerships. So what is your take on that? And, you know, give us an overview of different company types.
There are three types of business registrations in the Gambia, meaning there are three types of businesses that one can venture into in the Gambia. And the most common one is the sole trader, sole proprietorship, which is a one-man business.
Yep.
One person come, you invest everything, you start your business, you manage everything, everything is operated by one person only, to the exclusion of everybody. That's the most common form of business in the Gambia. And of course, the second one is the partnership, where two or more people can come together and form a business and start operating. Now, similarly, we also have a company, and the company has different categories. We have private companies and public companies. The most common is private companies, where up to 2 to 50 people can come together and set up a limited liability company. Now, the main difference between the company and the partnership maybe is in terms of the liability attached to each of them. If you register a partnership business, you and your partners, all of you will be jointly liable for all the debts and business failures of the venture. Whereas if it's a company, as the name implies, a limited liability company, your liability usually, the company's shareholders' liability is limited to the number of unpaid shares they have in the company. Now, when it comes to registering them, the sole trader is very straightforward. That one, you basically just need a copy of your ID and TIN, and the registration fee is just 500. Regardless of whether you're a Gambian or a foreigner, you can register your sole trader business in the Gambia for just $500, regardless of nationality. Now, the partnership involves, of course, legal documents. You need to draft a partnership agreement. You need to get a lawyer to draft a partnership agreement for you, which you need to register. And then the registration fee for partnerships is $6,000. For the company, the registration fee is $1,000. And the incorporation fee, because the company is incorporated, the incorporation makes the company separate from its members. The incorporation fee depends on the company's share capital. The higher the company's share capital, the more they would pay. And of course, for them also, they need a document. The main important document they need to get is the Articles and Memorandum of Association for the company, which usually is prepared by a lawyer. And they need to, it's very important that I mention this. Before you start a company, you need to do a name reservation. You need to come and formally apply for the company name to be reserved. It's very important to avoid duplicity, to ensure that the name you're using is not does not fall under one of the several restricted names. You have several restricted names under the Single Window Act and under the Companies Act, like the Gambia, National, international, all of those names are restricted names. So you need to come and first reserve the name before you can actually come and make your company application. To avoid you going, prepare your TIN, prepare your articles and memorandum, and then come and then we tell you the name is already available, or the name has certain words that are not permitted by the Act. So basically the company registration is just 1,000, and the incorporation fee depends on the share capital of the company. The higher the share capital, the more the company would pay. And also there is no difference in terms of payment as far as Gambians and foreigners are concerned.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to do a follow-up question in terms of the reservation,
Name reservation.
name reservation that you mentioned.
Yes.
Because I think, if my memory serves me right, from going through the Companies Act, it is true that there are certain names or certain words or combination of words that cannot or that are restricted in terms of their usage within the creation of businesses. And one that comes to mind is the use of the word group. Why is that?
Okay, group is not a prohibited name, it's a restricted name, in the sense that before you can use the word group, you need to seek for the consent of the registrar, that is the consent of the registrar of companies, before you can use the word group. I cannot go more into this as to why, because it's a law that is passed by Parliament, and it's already been passed. Like there are many of them there that I still try to find out what is the rationale behind it, like investment group, international. But all of those are not prohibited; they are restricted. So meaning you are allowed to use the word group,
but you have to
you need to get clearance from us. You need to apply and tell us reasons why you are using group or investment or international. Now, for group, so part of the reasons that for some of the companies that we allow to use group, part of the reasons that they gave, for example, I'll mention Q Group here. Q Group basically it's one company that has different subsidiaries. You have the information technology, you have the leisure part and everything. So usually we allow them to use group if you can show us that the company actually is going to be a parent company that is going to have subsidiary companies, and then you can have the parent company registered and having the word group. Because that group signifies that it's a group of subsidiary companies coming together to form one company. So that's it's not a prohibited word; it's a restricted word. So we allow many companies to use the words group. It's not that not anybody can just get up and come and say something group company limited.
Okay. Let me now look at the Act, the Single Window Business Registration Act. Having gone through it, I realized that there are 15 service deliverables that it had set itself to realize. But in the interest of time, I would only focus on 5. I know you've mentioned, we've discussed briefly on the electronic aspect and the website aspect as well. So perhaps I could skip those 2. But delivering the services as an e-government registration service is one of the service deliverables that the Single Window Registry had set itself, to realize. Receive and process applications for trade licenses and deliver licenses on behalf of municipalities. And receive and process applications for taxpayer registration and deliver the taxpayer registration certificates on behalf of the Commissioner General.
Yes.
I know there are some, these are things that the Single Window Business Registration is realizing. Perhaps the question is it being realized in the manner in which we had envisaged? If we were to take, for example, the turnaround time of a day, but you've mentioned some of the challenges why it could go beyond those 3 days. Beyond 1 day. But from your experience, in your capacity as State Counsel and also the acting Deputy Registrar, what is your experience? I mean, what has been the challenges? I know you started to, mentioning some of the challenges. You outlined one in terms of getting the relevant institutions to come and, provide the service for which you were set up to provide. But what are the challenges in terms of realizing all the 15 service delivery rules, of which I've only mentioned 5 here?
Okay.
I mean, in terms of the other 10, what are the challenges that you are facing that you would want to bring to the attention, of?
These objectives are progressive. We are gradually seeking to achieve each of them. Now, when it comes to the maintaining an electronic payment system, that one, basically, the central bank has a big role to play in that they should provide the access for people to pay online. Online payment system. And that one has been a challenge since we started. In terms of people registering online, also the main challenge here is that, as I mentioned earlier, most of the business community here are uneducated. And they would find it very difficult to actually go online to register their businesses. And the whole business startup is not only involved, it's not only the single winner that is involved. You have other offices like the GRA, the trade license, and all of them. If we have an e-registry system and they don't have that system, it defeats the whole purpose. So as you mentioned, it's high time that all government institutions or institutions that are involved maybe in the business setup to now transform from manual to an electronic data system so that we can all harmonize together. And then once you're doing this, you can do the other one at the same time. Now, when the receiving applications and processing them for taxpayer identification, that one is being done. Because at the same time of registering your business, you can apply for your TIN certificate. So that one is being done. So these are progressive steps that we are taking. And we are, as I mentioned, we are facing challenges. As far as we are not semi-autonomous, or maybe we are not receiving we are not receiving a percentage of what we are making to sustain ourselves in order to realize our objectives more. It would be very, very difficult to achieve some of these objectives.
I hear you on the bit regarding the electronic payment system.
Yes.
And how it is that the Central Bank of the Gambia should provide or the facilitation or the launch part of that initiative. And I equally hear the sentiment you're expressing in terms of the literacy rate in our country and how most businesses or their owners, sole proprietorships or even companies are constrained, in terms of the challenge of literacy. But I want to differ and not pinpoint that as a challenge, and here is my take. I have always made the point, the question is, what do we consider to be illiteracy? I think that is important.
Yes.
Now, if I'm a businessman who has never sat on the bench of a primary school, a secondary school, a high school, a college or university, but I am a businessman who have undergone some sort of a formal training, the madrasas, for example, I'm not illiterate.
Definitely not.
Yes. I'm literate, but literate in perhaps an informal teaching mechanism. So most of the people that we call illiterates are not illiterates. They are literates, but they are not literate in the manner in which we have become accustomed in terms of what literacy is.
Yes.
Because you have some of these people, and I could name names, who are renowned, successful businessmen, have never sat a day in any formal education setting, and are very successful in what they're doing. So is it that us, the educated ones, those who have gone through the rigor of formal education, are the ones who are overwhelmed, perhaps by the challenge that we anticipate in terms of, for example, if we were to launch an electronic payment system, and how we conceive or perceive, the challenges that may emanate from those that we consider to be illiterates, trying to become part and parcel, of that platform. And my take is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, or we could, discuss on this further. if there's an obligation on the part of the single window business registry, and one of its deliverables is to provide an e-government registration service, for example, or maintain an electronic payment system, for example, my take is just endeavor to put that platform or that structure in place, and the businessman that we deem to be illiterate has a number of ways to circumvent them participating on that platform, irrespective of whether they are literate academically, in terms of whether they can speak English, whether they can express themselves, whether they are articulate. There are a number of businesses out there who can provide all of these services. So if I'm Ben Roberts, and I'm considered to be illiterate because I've never sat a day in any formal education, but I'm a businessman, I've been very successful in running my business, then if I can do it, I can go and get the service provider, because there are a number of people who are now looking into this, and that person could help set me up, and for a fee I can pay that person and be on the platform. Yes, so is it that that we, the literate ones, are overwhelmed by putting these structures into place? What is it?
Yeah, it's very true that most of the most successful businessmen in the Gambia haven't attended formal education. But also, if you check their businesses or their companies, they are not the ones running it entirely. Now, I alluded to the fact earlier, is that most of the people that come into the business fora in the Gambia, they want to run everything. When it comes to a company, for example, shareholders of a company are deemed to be investors. You have your money, you see something that you think might generate profit and is good for the economy, you invest in it, but you're not involved in its management.
Day-to-day administration.
Day-to-day administration. Once you try to involve yourself in it, and you're not an expert in that area, you haven't you haven't gained formal education, it becomes a problem. Now, there comes the role of company directors, whom you need to appoint for the day-to-day administration of the company secretary, the auditors, all of those things. Now, what I'm saying here is that most businesses, or most shareholders, I may say, they want to be the shareholder, they invest the money in it, they bring family members to come and join them, they are not experts in that area. Eventually, what happens, the business will crumble, because transparency is not there. So what we are trying to say is, if you have your money, you want to invest, you can be company shareholders, but appoint people who have expert in the area to come and run it. When it comes to the e-payment system also, this can be solved. Now, as I said, as central bank has a big role to play, they need to facilitate it so that government, right now we're not even accepting payment by check. We have to accept payment by cash only. So these are some of the challenges that we are facing, and which central bank has a big role to play. Now, yes, you are right, most of the business owners in the Gambia here are not educated. But as I said earlier also, they are not the ones entirely doing everything on their own. So it's not like, as you mentioned, if you're illiterate, doesn't necessarily mean that you are being left behind when it comes to doing business in the Gambia or not. Because most of the business companies that come there, in fact, are not educated. They cannot even fill the application form. We have to help them and fill these forms. Yes.
You mentioned the role the central bank has to play within the electronic payment system. I could take a look at or make reference to the RTGS, the real-time gross settlements that the central bank has put into place, where, if you pay me today, with an interbank transfer, it has to go through the central bank to settle. If they were able to put a system like this and it's fully functional and operational, I don't see any reason why an electronic payment system, in line with the service deliverables of the single window business registry, should be a challenge. Is it that perhaps they don't see value in it at the time? Is it that the value creation has not been pinpointed, and them shown the essence, the relevance, and the improvement that it could help bring within our economy as long as business registration is concerned, amongst other things? Is that the reason why perhaps there's hesitation on their part for them to facilitate this? Or I could also say, can't we use some of the commercial banks? I mean, GRA has put a scheme in place where people could now pay for their various tax obligations without even have to step a foot at a GRA office. You know, so, and it's the same thing that the single window business registry is looking at in terms of this electronic payment system. So if GRA has been able to do it, I mean, if the central bank has been able to put the RTGS system in place, I mean, the issue is, I mean, is it the single window business registry that now have to drive this electronic payment system that the central bank is critical in implementing, but by pinpointing to them that these are the reasons why this has to be done, this is the value that we stand to gain as an economy if this thing is done, the number of businesses created would be so much, and ultimately you, the central bank, would benefit. I could use one index, the foreign exchange, months of import cover, because the more businesses you have in this country that are registered, the more easy it is for businesses to be done amongst the businesses within the Gambia and outside the Gambia, especially those that are exporting services, the more the central bank would benefit by way of, you know, months of import cover. So, I mean, is this perhaps an area that maybe you as a state council would look into at the single window business registry?
Of course. We are very much involved in negotiations with the central bank regarding the e-payment system. And it's one of the major things that we are looking at before we receive funding to fund another part of this project, as I mentioned earlier. So all of these challenges, because before we delve into that, we need to look at the single window in itself, its implementation, the challenges we have faced, and we will surely ensure that we address them going forward. So yes, that's a very good point.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to look at the single window business registry, as it were, and also the service deliverables, the 15 service deliverables that we mentioned earlier. I am sure that you are aware of the Forbes Business Index ranking,
Yes.
You know, in which the Gambia was ranked second to last globally, second to last in Africa, and actually last in in ECOWAS. You know, ECOWAS countries, and I'm sure one of the reasons why the World Bank supported the creation of the single window business registry, you know, was to help this country in terms of improving on the business environment. I mean, as it relates to setting up of businesses, dealing with issues of bureaucratic red tape, issues of business sentiment, perception, issues of corruption as well, as a result of the bureaucratic red tape. Now, the question I want to ask is, what is it that the single window registry intends to do to help us as a country to improve the Forbes Business Index ranking? What would you think are some of the things that we need to do, or some of the things that we need to look at in order to improve our ranking in that regard?
Yes, in order to improve our ranking, there are key indicators when it comes to looking at how easy is it to do a business in a country. Like, for example, starting a business, it has issues to do with registration, the whole business environment, from how you register your business. When you register your business, access to loan services, how easy is it? Payment of taxes, payment of rates, all of these are involved. Now, if you check, as you mentioned earlier, our ranking is very, very, very low. And now, as far as the single window is concerned, we are the regulatory body. We have made it very easy now to register your business. Now you can register in one day. Now you don't need to go and make a tax deposit to come and before you can come and register your business. You can come straight to the single window and register your business, even without making a tax deposit. That doesn't mean you don't have to pay tax at GRA, but that tax deposit has been removed now. You need to come and register first and then go, and then start paying your taxes afterwards. There are many institutions involved in this, and all of us need to simultaneously come up together in order to enhance our ranking and to make sure that the Gambia's ranking rises.
Mr. Job, it's my pleasure to host you on the Business
Thank
and
you very
Economy
much.
program, and I'm
Thank you.
sure we would not be saying this is not the last time we are saying. We'll try to organize another forum in which we'll get all of the stakeholders on board
Thank you
so
very
that we
much.
can see what we could do to progress.
Thank you very much.
Viewers, thank you very much. This was what we had for you today. Again, please be reminded that you can catch this program online. We're on radio, we're on TV, and all of these episodes could be caught on radio, TV, online as well. Thank you.
Come and visit the new Ajab Bank today. Ajab is the only Islamic bank in the Gambia. We offer Sharia compliant services, products and financing modes. Ajab have invested in ultra-modern technology in the state-of-the-art core Islamic banking software IMAL. Ajab ATMs are located in our branches at Banjul, New Joshuan, Brikama, Basse, QCell head office and Brisubi turntable. You can check your balance, withdraw cash, get your mini statement and much more. Ajab also provides 24/7 internet banking, which offers you the comfort of banking from your office or your homes. Come and visit the new Ajab Bank today and enjoy our services delivered by a team of banking professionals. For a limited time, you can get an Ajab ATM card absolutely free. For more information, contact us on 346-6666 or 327-7777. Ajab, your partnership bank.
رباه عفوك